This is Morning Express, and it's the Friday version where we've got loads lined up for you. It's time for us to look at the dailies. Shortly, I'm going to hand over to Zinzi to introduce the panel that we have this morning to look at the dailies. But a quick reminder of that question that we are sharing with you, and we'd like to hear what your thoughts are. Do you think setting up more day secondary schools is the solution to student unrest? That's a question that we're asking this morning, and it is good that we do have the chair of the Parliamentary Committee on Education. So maybe he's going to give us a bit more light on that. But for now, we want to look at the dailies, and we start off with The Standard, where the headline is revealed. Details of secret lifestyle audit. And Zinzi, it looks like as the country continues to wonder whether the war on corruption has begun, work is happening behind the scenes.
It has been happening. Thank you so much, Michael. Well, with us this morning, my well-enabled panel. Sitting closer to me, I have Fabian Muli. He is the Member of Parliament for Kagundo. And further afield, I have Julius Meli. He is the Member of Parliament for Tinderet, as well as the Chair Parliamentary Committee on Matters of Education. And my far left, I had Advocate Philip Magal. Gentlemen, it's always a pleasure to have you this morning. Thank you for making time for KTN News. So as you've seen from the Standard this morning, the biggest story that we're running with is the details of how that lifestyle audit is being conducted. And just to give you an overview perspective, it sounds like an ongoing movie where a person is called at random, they are picked by a private car, they're taken to a private location in some private posh area. The grilling process is then done. And according to what this story is on page 4, which is quite actually interesting, what happens is that some of the people who have already gone through the grilling, they say it's quite tough, and the polygraph test is an actual thing. But let me begin with you, Mheshimiwa Fabian. This lifestyle audit, yes, it's happening, but it's happening way beyond the 30 days that President Uhuru Kenyatta himself had said that he wants to see this audit happening. Do you think that this will affect the results of the lifestyle audit?
Thank you, and morning. Well, whatever the system you use or whatever the circumstance is happening, it is good the country needs to work to fight against the corruption. Corruption is really messing the country. And Kenya, we are in the that country. If we want this country to develop, we need first to check about issues which are dragging the country back, and one is corruption. But I can say this country, we have set institutions which are set to do the job. But when something happens, we start preparing another institutions to do the same job which other institution is doing, which bring the conflict of interest. So I will support a lot anything to fight corruption. But let's not forget that we're still having institutions which are fighting corruption. So we need to empower those institutions and check, is it the law which we are using, which is not properly giving the right procedures on how to fight this corruption. So I'm supporting the fight against corruption, but I won't support any forming of institutions. Yeah.
Forming of institution in regards to, for example, this specific multi-agency task team that is specifically answering to President Uhuru Kenyatta?
See, actually, President needs to have a team to report to him, which need to update him on these matters of corruption. Because if you see the agenda, Paul is the first person, is the father of the country, which need to put these agendas to go through. But the question is, even if we form institution, are we going to use the different law apart from the existing laws? We are another team to go under those investigations. But after they do the report, they are going to issue the report to use the same existing laws. So when you call me, you tell me I come to a private place, that actually it will bring more scare, because maybe some people will use that loophole to start also messing with the public.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. I'm glad that we have an advocate here, Advocate Philip Magal. The issue that Honorable Fabian has raised in regards to having different bodies addressing the same issue in regards to yes. With the same existing laws, yes. But then the laws, so different institutions but same laws, which according to Honorable Fabian, yes. Could then be tampered with. What are your thoughts on that as a lawyer?
I think what we are seeing is more of cooperation and coordination between the different agencies charged with investigation and prosecution of crimes. Basically, we do have the DCI, we do have the NIS and the ESCC. ESCC proved quite ineffective, and which led to the president's frustration. You know, when something doesn't work, then you have to try something new. And I think that is what is done. And as we can see, what we thought at first were roadside declarations are being put into effect. And for that, I'm really glad. I'm glad that we do have the polygraphs in the country, and I'm glad that people are being taken through lifestyle audit. It would have been really sad if it was all talk.
And no action.
And no action.
Honorable Julius,
Yes.
this aspect of where the National Intelligence Service have said that they already had a list of people that they planned to grill, officials, and beginning from the procurement officers all the way down to financial officers. Do you think that this list should be made public?
Yes, I think the issue of lifestyle audit is a very good idea. And I really want to thank the President for that idea, because actually this nation has lost a lot of money through pilferage, through corruption, actually people looting state money. But what I want to really reiterate is what my colleagues have just said. The law, the multi-agencies do their work right, but they should do it procedurally. They should make sure that the law is followed. And because it's a lifestyle audit, I don't think it's good that we do it in secret. What's the reason why we do it in secret?
Even this grilling process, the way they are
Yes.
being collected by secret drivers taken to a secret location?
It should be done in public, and people should be known that it is this time Melly has been audited, so-and-so has been audited, so-and-so has been audited, because this is for the good of the nation. But we don't need to do things, take people to secret locations, secret drivers, secret cars. No, it is not right.
You're not for the secrecy.
I guess the good thing is that it has begun, and
It
maybe
has
how
begun, yes.
the agencies do it really, I guess, should be left to them to come up with a way.
Yes.
But there you go. At least it has begun, and let's wait and see whether there'll be any fruits or results out of it. Let's look at another story on page 6, and it has been titled by the Standard, "Day of the Rebels," as Member of Parliament Bowen wins case. And of course, this is to do with an election that had been nullified, but the High Court now overturns an earlier decision nullifying the election of Rift Valley lawmakers perceived to have fallen out with party leaders, and possibly looking at also maybe reflecting at the IEBC, which I would want to combine with a story on page 9, where Chebukati is ordered to face court, again looking at the composition of the IEBC. If there was to be, well, for these particular cases, there's not going to be a by-election because that has been upheld. But if there was to be a by-election, of course, there would be questions raised. Let me start with you, Mheshimiwa, and possibly your thoughts on their win and also the Constitution, the IEBC as it stands right now.
Thank you so much. First of all, let me congratulate my colleagues. Actually, we've come almost from the same region. Mheshimiwa Keter, we shared almost the same constituency. It was formerly Tinderet, and it was split to Nandi Hills. Bowen also comes from a neighboring county, and I want to congratulate them for the, to go through a petition is a harrowing process for those who have been in politics. And I congratulate them. And I don't think the headline is right, that it is a day of the rebels. That this is a day when elections, the petitioners have won. And Honorable Bowen has been a very good member of Jubilee. Honorable Keter has been a good member of Jubilee, but they have been speaking their minds.
Right.
But not that they are rebels in any way.
All right. Also, Michael, on page 7, we still have a very interesting story. Still on the sugar issue. Mumias owes KRA about 1 billion Kenyan shillings. Here's what it says. Mumias Sugar Company owes about 1.13 billion Kenyan shillings for failing to pay taxes on sugar imports that the National Revenue Agency has said. Mheshimiwa Fabian, what do you think at the core, at the heart, what is the problem at the heart of Mumias? Because for the longest time, the government itself continues to pump in millions. To be more specific, this time around, the government has made the decision to pump in about 2.5 billion Kenyan shillings, yet Mumias is still a struggling company. What do you think continues to ail Mumias, even after Kidero's term as the chairman within the institution? What continues to ail this organization?
Thank you. There has been a lot of heated debate on this issue of sugar, which now is affecting Mumias. But I'll put it clearly, it is not about debate, it's not about Mumias, it's about the KEBS. KEB was established by the Act of Parliament of 2006. But now, if you see the composition which we get from this Act is very poor composed. This country will continue to suffer because of issue of customs and border protection of the goods coming within the country. We have not been able to have capacity to control the goods which are coming within the country and to know the statistic number of population we have in for people. We don't know even the local produce, how it's going. It has been a failure of KEBS, which they are supposed to give us the health of the goods coming and the good which is required for human being to consume. So in this issue, if KEBS for today had controlled the issue of sugar coming to the country, we don't need to know the number of sugar to import from Minister of Treasury. We need to get it from high BC, the people who are giving the population of this country. Because we'll be able to understand, because we're having this high population, we need to have this number of produce good to come. But now, if we bought too much good within the country, the local producer will want a market.
All right.
Yeah.
Honorable Julius Melu, you have Mumias that failed to pay their tax to KRA. But they continue, the state continues pumping in money year in, year out, yet they seem not to be meeting expectations, not only from in terms of sugar standards, but also paying their taxes. What do you think ails Mumias at the heart of it all?
Let me just make a comment that I myself also, I come from the sugar growing region of Chemelil, Moroni, and Miwani. I'm also a chair of the sugar caucus in Parliament. Sugar industry, and not Mumias alone, is actually affected by one, massive importation, dumping of sugar. Two, mismanagement, especially by the managers in those particular factories. Three, that farmers have not been given money to develop farms. And let me tell you today that one of the most profitable sectors in this country, if well managed and well done, is the sugar subsector. Because one thing is that Kenya in the 60s and 70s was able to produce enough and even export to the neighboring countries. And the local farmers, my constituency, 90% of it is sugar production. But you'll realize that the farmers have not been paid. The farmers, their sugarcane, they sold it to the factories. Most of the factories are actually 19th century machines. If we modernize them, if we really inject capital, I'm telling you, the sugar subsector, where about 20 million Kenyans depend on it, is going to be one of the most vibrant.
So, Honorable Julius, do you think that Mumias and just the whole sugar industry needs to reflect on how it is that it relates with farmers? Because in the entire food chain, it starts with farmers, with cane farmers. So they need to reflect the relationship between the farmers and the industry in itself.
First of all, the factories need to be modernized. We need to inject enough capital. We need to protect our factories. If you go to many countries, like Brazil and all these other countries, they protect their factories. Governments protect their factories against cheap importations. Why are we not doing the same? So even if we give capital, like 2.5 billion to Mumias, and we don't do the real foundation, that is protection, good management, and all this, the injection will not serve any purpose.
All right, let me hear Philip's thoughts.
I would like to reiterate what Mheshimiwa is saying here. For me, it is failure on the government's part. There is no way a government can allow sugar to be imported that can last the country for about 3 years when they know that there are sugarcane farmers who depend on delivering their sugarcane to the sugar factory and selling it to the common mwananchi. It is, from the recent scandal, it is clear that Kenyans consume a lot of sugar, and therefore that the sugar farmer should be really a rich man, but then why is he not? Protectionism. We need to protect those industries. We need to see to it that we only import when and the quantity is necessary. Again, the sugarcane farmer needs to be incentivized. He needs to be paid. If you don't pay a man for 2-3 years, why should he keep on planting?
Supplying, right.
Why should he keep on planting sugarcane? Sugarcane takes about 2 years to mature. And you can imagine after you've delivered, you're not being paid. Why should you continue? Sugarcane farmer is the poorest man in this country. Not that there is no market for his goods, but because the government has deliberately chosen to kill that particular
So he or
industry.
she should be made a priority before even giants like Mumias.
Yes.
All right.
And I guess while we're still on Mumias, we're looking at the Daily Nation. I'll come to the headline, but there's also a story in the Nation. Kidero put on the spot of 1 billion tax arrears. And maybe just to get from you gentlemen, the question of responsibility. Who bears the brunt? Because at the end of the day, yes, we're talking about Mumias, but it came down under the helm or under the leadership of somebody. And in this case, it's Dr. Evans Kidero. Maybe just to start with you, Mheshimiwa Fabian, your thoughts on possibly how do we hold somebody accountable? And it's on the Nation. I'll give you the page in just a bit, but as you comment on that, yes.
Yeah, it is true. Many of parastatals, they are led by directors, especially some cooperative societies. Before we give these people even job, we say we have vetted them. Some people, even chapter 6, it is not followed to maximization. That's why we say that they need to be found accountable. Because now you are the director, you are the one giving directions. Why is it happening in your watchdog? So they need to be found accountable.
All right. Melly, your thoughts on accountability?
Yes, I think Tonga, we need to be accountable. Actually, that is the plain thing. That you've been given a responsibility, you are supposed to do a particular job. If you fail, the buck stops with you.
It stops with you.
Yes.
For me, it is a question of the rule of law and impunity. In Kenya, you can steal blatantly in daylight and nobody will hold you accountable. I mean, the scandal you're talking about is from 2006 or something. Where have all the investigative agencies been? I mean, this is not something that is coming to light today, and it is the same across the whole country, from the chief level to the highest official in the land. You can steal, you can mismanage, you can misappropriate, and at the end of it all, nobody will hold you accountable.
Well,
and that is why we are so desperate to see the lifestyle audit concluded, so that people can know that we have laws, and when they are enforced, we have a much better country.
And just on that same breath, where we have the lifestyle audit and people who have recently, and not so long ago, perhaps in 2013, have left office and weren't able to make into this election, do you think that the lifestyle audit should also affect them?
Yes, as at that particular point, they were public officers.
Right.
Anybody who's held public office and who's derived benefit from it should be held accountable. A crime doesn't expire. If you steal in an office today and then resign the following day, you are still accountable for what you did while you're in office. Yes.
All right.
All right, and let's now look at the headline of the Nation, where the headline is State of the Union, revealed in doses. Of course, there has been, a cloud of mystery that has surrounded the handshake, but slowly there seems to be details coming out. We now do know that according to the deputy, or rather, according to the former Prime Minister Raila Odinga, they have a reason as to why they left out Kalonzo Musyoka and left out Honorable William Ruto, the Deputy President. State of the Union. Let me start with you, Philip Magal, on your thoughts on this, small doses of information that are coming out mainly from Raila Odinga, who is well known to, basically keep his cards close to the chest until when necessary.
Yes, and this particular instance, I think it was very necessary because he was in his deputy's turf, and he had to explain why he left him out. So therefore, personally, I really cannot take him seriously on whatever it is that he's saying. He had to make an excuse as to why he left the son of the Kambas out, and considering the venue as well, he had to give an explanation.
But Honorable Julius Millie, Raila says, or not just Raila alone, but his, should I call them former counterparts, the NASA core principals, the likes of Moses Wetangula, Musalia Mudavadi, and Kalonzo Musyoka, feel that was betrayal. What Raila Odinga did, speaking to Mr. Kenyatta and not involving them, that they also called for their own handshake with Mr. Kenyatta, and they called it the act as betrayal. What do you say to that?
I think in this country, it is actually full of betrayals, as you said. But one thing which you need to be very clear is that shows the kind of person Kenyans are dealing with. And if I look at the president and deputy president, Ruto and Kenyatta, Ruto just put it very clear that he was briefed. He was actually in the know when the handshake took place. He actually had the details, and he discussed with his principal that Raila decided not to brief his co-principals and lieutenants. Actually, marks of the kind of leadership that is before.
All right, Honorable Fabian, yes. This aspect of where there could be talks of constitutional reforms, a change within the constitution, do you think that the state, Kenyans are ready to go back and vote, whether it's a yes or no in terms of changing the constitution, given that was one of the key highlights within that March handshake?
Thank you. When we come there, it came from handshake. But let me first congratulate our president for having gone ahead with the former Prime Minister and agreeing to work together. Also, I congratulate the Deputy President. He was the first person actually to support it. So I don't see this issue people feel the deputy president not supporting. Deputy president, if I heard he was the first person who went ahead and said that we'd like to congratulate this one, is a good idea. But to my take is, politics has been taken as a personal gain, which I don't think we should do that at this stage. We need to see historical injustice of land being solved, historical injustice where they don't have a job. We need this handshake to work for the sake of the common man. We want to see those people who are demonstrating in the streets having a text somewhere. We don't want to care who was the deputy, who was this, why the deputy, why these other people who are close to him. So I'm saying that we don't even need to change our constitution at this time, the way you put it. I don't see any question in the constitution which we need to move. There are too many acts which we need to examine. There are too many policies in that act which has never been enacted. This constitution we have, it is not even gone for 10 years. Now we are going to change it to get what? To give people personal interest?
Honorable Julius, are you of the same thought as your colleague? Do you think that we should be changing our constitution?
Surely we don't need to change the constitution. And I think what we need to do is to implement the constitution, provide services to people, actually improve the living standards of the people, and unify the people the way the president is doing. So we are actually doing a disservice to this nation if we just change the constitution for the sake of expediency. It isn't right.
All right, Philip, let me get your thoughts before we go on break.
No, I've never supported constitutional amendment calls, because the constitution, like my fellow panelists have said, is quite new. We need to try it out, we need to test it, and after we've really all agreed that there are some areas that need to be changed, it's then that we can change it. Otherwise, for me, it is still too soon to contemplate changing the constitution.
All right, so Morning Express is taking a quick commercial break, but we'll be right back. But before we do that, let's take a look at Cartoon of the Week. They're always quite interesting and sort of paint an image of what's happening in society. It's coming up on your screens in just a moment, and then I'll get a quick thought overview from our panel right here in studio in the morning. That is the Cartoon of the Week.
All right, and well, basically the Cartoon of the Week, they're describing how things are. No Mtuwetu, no elections is what the guy at the top is saying. IEBC must go, and well, basically burning tires behind him, which basically gives us a description of how the elections went. And where we are today is, well, secondary schools are burning, no new principal, no learning. So I guess what the Cartoon of the Week is describing is what children have learned. And you know, psychologists tell us that children learn more from what they see than what they hear. So there you go. That's a Cartoon of the Week. And of course, we're going to be looking at matters education in just a bit and finding out what the solutions are as one of the things that we'll be reviewing with the week that was. For now, we're going to take that short break right